Okay, so this is a Power BI canvas. By canvas, a canvas is just a screen. Like they say, the world is your canvas. You can paint whatever you want on it. So this is your canvas. This is typically how it looks like. You have so many options to do several things. You can get data, get filter and different things, but I'll come back to that. I want to show you how to get your data. So you come to file, and there are different options on that file. So there's new, there's open report, save as, get data, import, export, publish, options and setting, and get started. We'll come back to all the different icons and what they mean later. But for now, I want to go to get data. I want to work with get data. So you click on get data. It gives you the options to select different data sources. As I pointed out earlier, you can select large data sets. So one of the advantages of using Power BI is that it gives you the opportunity to select data sets from different sources, from Excel to a website. You can select from an existing Power BI data set. You can select from SQL Server. You can select from a text file or a CSV file. You can select from MySQL. So it allows you to select from multiple sources, and you don't have to use one file. So you can select from different files at a time. So you can have your data on different files. So for instance, you want to do a report on a supermarket, for instance, and they've given you their data for 2010 up to 2020 in 10 different Excel sheets. So with Power BI, you can combine all those sheets together and create your visualizations or create your reports from them. So the first step you have to do is to go to get data and select your data source. So I want to work with a CSV file. I'll click on text/CSV, and then it gives me the option to select. So I have my CS sales. These are different files I have. I want to click on DE sales. Just click on open. One thing I mentioned earlier was that you can shape your data. I said there are 5 steps. So install, connect, shape, create, and share. So what I just did was to what I've just done was to connect my data source. So this is how my data source looks like. For Power BI, it allows you to shape your data before it loads the data into its own database service. What this means is that if, for instance, you have your data in the columns in your data are in different different data types. Maybe you have on an Excel file, for instance, you have numbers, but Power BI is seeing it as text. You can transform your data before you load it, although you can do so after, but Power BI gives you the opportunity to transform your data without affecting your raw file. So, for instance, in Microsoft SQL, when you create your data set, you have to give your data, each column of your data, a data type. With Power BI, you can transform your data type without affecting your original raw file. So everything is still intact, and then you can carry your raw file and give to somebody else, and the person can do some other thing on it. So this is my sales data. I want to shape the data. After I load it, I click on transform data. You can click on load and just load data, but you can also click on transform data. When you click on transform data, it opens the query editor for you, and from there you can do whatever you want to do with it. So I have on my sheet, I have product ID, I have dates, I have zip code, I have units, I have revenue, I have country, Okay, that's all. I have country. I want my product ID to be text. Maybe I don't want to do any calculations on my product ID. I want it to be text. That's why I can transform it here. I want my dates. My date remains as dates, but I want to change the date type. I can do so from the query editor as well. So the query editor helps you to shape your data, especially if the data set you received is not a very clean data set. Even if you have cleaned your data and you've done everything possible, sometimes when you load it on Excel, the shape of your data changes. So with Power BI, you can transform your data as you please. Then after shaping your data and loading your data, you then create your charts with your data sets, and then you can share. I'm just going to walk you through how to create no I'll walk you through how to share, how to create. I'll walk you through the theory of creating and sharing. Then we'll come back to the menus. I don't have a PowerPoint slide for the menus, but I'll walk you through each of the menus. So let me just load this I don't want to load it. So assuming I already loaded my data sets, I can just come to my canvas and use the different visualization charts. Power BI offers a wide range of visualization charts, and it allows users to also customize their charts. So we have people who build charts that can be used on Power BI. That's one of the advantages of using Power BI. We have people who build charts. I've used a text file that is not a Power BI product, but it was created for Power BI, and I've used it for a presentation before. So you create your charts. On your charts, you can select your fields. That's the fields from your data set. From my data set, you'll notice that there was country, there was date, there was product ID, there was revenue, there was units, and there was zip. Under the fields pane, that's where you see all the fields that are available. The fields are available and loaded to Power BI. You can just select any field you want and then create your charts from there. After creating your charts, the next thing you do is publish, because when you create a report on Power BI, you can't, even if you want to share your file, sometimes you don't want to share your source data with people. Your data is probably, maybe you have data from a bank, for instance, and the information is confidential, but the report is not necessarily confidential. You have transaction values from people in the tunes of millions. Your raw file contains the customer ID, the bank account number, and those other confidential information. Now you don't want to share that, so you don't need to necessarily share your entire Power BI file. What you can do instead is to publish your report, and then you can send the published link to your colleagues in your organization. And to publish your reports, there's a publish option. Let me share my I'm going to share my PowerPoint screen again. Okay. For some reason, I can't find my PowerPoint screen. Okay. So I said earlier that
Sorry, I can't hear you properly.
after
Who else is hearing her sound funny? Hello?
Yes, I think so. I think the network when I after end is actually bad. This reason.
I still can't hear anything. Can anyone hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you. And I'm not
Yeah, I can
sure.
hear you guys, but I think she's having network issues.
I don't think
Is she
she's on
still on the call? I don't even think she's on the call anymore. She's not even on the call anymore.
she's not on the phone. Yes, she's having network issues. So we'll join later.
Please hold on. She's going to get back to the call again. She needs to get back on the call soon. Just hold on.
You have sent it.
Let me know if you can hear anybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, okay. So I was talking about someone is unmuted and I can hear the person.
It's Gilbert.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So I was talking about publishing and I wanted to share my okay. I wanted to share this screen. Okay, so after I was saying after creating your report, the last thing you like to do is share. You can share publicly over the internet. You can share organization wide, but to share you have to sign in. That means you have to have a Power BI account, not at powerbi.com. So your organization has to be signed up to Power BI. I think it's Power BI Pro to get the license. Then you select your workspace. And when the publishing is done, you get a success message. You can log into Power BI and view and share your report. So that's just the basic of Power BI, of introduction to Power BI. It's Power BI is a very robust tool. You can do quite a number of things. You from your Power BI service, for instance, you can copy your visuals without any data behind them, and your numbers show that way, and then you can copy them to PowerPoint. You can do so many things with Power BI. You can create your models, as I said earlier. So I want to walk you through the different menus available under Power BI and explain what you can achieve with those with the menus and submenus. So for instance, on that file, you have open report, save as, get data, import, export, publish, options and settings, and get started. So new just means like new in Microsoft Excel or Microsoft PowerPoint. That's creating a new file. Open reports is used to open a previous report. Save and save as the name implies. Get data is used to connect to your data source. Import is used to import a Power BI template. So some organizations already have created a Power BI template that they use, so they don't need to create things from scratch. So you can import your Power BI, a Power BI template. You can import a visual. So you've already created a visual from an existing file. You can import it. You can import a Power BI visual from App Source. You can import Power Query, Power Pivot, and Power View. So those are advanced analytics. One thing you can do with your Power BI um, is to export to PDF. So if you created a set of reports that are not necessarily interactive, so nobody needs to click on a filter or anything, and you want to share that report, you can export it to PDF and the client just sees it that way. So for instance, from this chart that I've created here, I want to export it to to PDF so that I can share the PDF version with my colleagues. All I need to do is go to File and click on Export and export to PDF. So it's a PDF version of my report is generated, and it's opened, that PDF version is opened on a browser for me to see how my report looks like. I'm going to share that screen now.
I can't hear again. Is it just me?
No, I was actually silent. I'm trying to share a screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is the BI version. This is the PDF document. As you can see, it's exactly the same thing. I can't interact with it, but it's just the way is exactly how it is on my canvas. That's how it looks like on the PDF version. So if, for instance, I had done some fancy things, I had written some text and everything just appears exactly the way it is on my screen. Another thing you can do is to, I mentioned earlier, is to publish or to is to publish. I already explained. So if I want to publish this report that I've created, I'll go to publish to Power BI. There's also the option up here, but I have to save what I've done first. You click on save, apply later. I don't want any changes applied. And then I select my workspace. And then it shows me that it is publishing. Because I already published this earlier, I can replace it. And as soon as the publishing is done, depending on how fast your internet connection is and the size of your data. So if your data file is very large, then it will take a long time for your file to complete publishing. But as soon as it's completed, it gives you a notification saying that it's success. So yes, success. And if you click on the link, open GCP Power BI desktop, that's where the Power BI service version of the file is, and you can view your dashboard. But that's not for today. So another menu under file is options and setting. Under options, you have different things that you can customize for your reports, for your Power BI reports. There are global settings and there's settings for your current file. So under global settings, one of the things you can do is the time intelligence for your data. It just means that for the data that you are loading, you can enable some settings. So you can enable it so that whenever a new file is updated, a new file is loaded, or you connect to a new data source, it sees the time column. So it's intelligent enough to see the time column. You can clear your cache. You can set the maximum megabytes of files you want to load. So if you feel like your RAM size is not enough to run some large data sets, so you can limit how many megabytes you want your data to show. There is something called Q&A on Power BI. You can also clear the cache for the Power BI for the Q&A. Then we have Power Query Editor. So under Power Query Editor, you can edit the settings for your layouts. This entire screen that you can see, including the menu bar, the visualization, where you have visualizations, where you have filters, where you have fields, is the entire layout. So if you want it to display the query settings, you can click on it. If you want it to display a formula bar, you click on, you can set it there. You want it to, you want to preview content, you want to set parameters, you want to enable formulas. Power BI is built on the programming language, and so if you want to enable formulas, so most formulas are written in M programming language. So if you want to enable formulas, you can also do that there. You can do direct query, you can do R scripting, you can do Python, you can set your security checks as well. You can select your privacy check. So there are a lot of things you can do under global options. Then under the current file as well, you can set different settings. I can't go into every detail of everything you're going to do, because Power BI is something that you discover with each report you create. Another option under option and setting is data source setting. So I've created these files for instance. Under data source settings, you can see the two files I connected to, and then you can change your source. You can edit permission. So if I click on this data source, I can change it. So if I change the data source, it means that my former data source and my new data source, they have to be the same data type, and they have to have similar configuration, otherwise it's going to throw an error. So as you can see, it has because I exported a CSV file for as my data source, it has brought up the option of changing to another CSV file. You can edit your permissions, set privacy level. You can clear whatever existing permissions you already have. Another menu that you will use a lot of time is the home menu. So under the home menu, you have your typical edit menus, that's cut, copy, paste, and format painter. Then you have the data menus, you have the query menu, you have the insert menu, you have the calculations and the share. I've talked about the share because the only thing under share is publish. So under the clipboard menu or the edit menu, you have the copy paste, format painter, and paste. Is similar to the clipboard menu on PowerPoint and Excel. So you can copy. If I click on copy, I can just paste my visual. It's just as simple as that. If I want my visual, for instance, I have two similar visuals, I want them to have the same format. I click on format painter, and I come and I click on the visual. I want to have that same format. Then under data, we have get data, Excel, Power BI data set, SQL Server, enter data, and recent sources. The get data is the same thing as this. Is the same option as when you open your Power BI file for the first time. You get the same options to select to connect to different data sources. That's Excel, Power BI data sets, Power BI data flows, SQL Server. I think the most used will be Excel, SQL Server, and text and CSV, text/CSV and web for me. Other people and other organizations have different preferences. So a bank that uses Finacle or Oracle for its database, I think there's option. You can, I think it's ODBC data source or something for, yes. So for a bank, for instance, when you come to under get data, under database. There's Oracle database. You'll be required to connect, and Oracle has its specification for connection. You might be required to enter an IP address, the database name, the connection source, and things like that. Let me click on connect and see let's see. Okay, so I don't have Oracle data client. So for every data source that you choose, if it's not the typical one like Excel or a CSV file um, or a web file, it requires other options for you, and you it's usually customized per organization. Then you can just import data from Microsoft Excel, import an existing Power BI data set, you import data from SQL. Then you can also enter your data. So if you're just playing around with things and you want to create a table from scratch, maybe the table is very simple. So you have three people in a class and you want to create it's a table for them. So if, for instance, I say column name is name and maybe student's ID, and I say, for instance, me, and I say 001, Tola 002, but 003. Something as simple as that, and I give my table a name, maybe students table, and I click on load. It loads that data, it loads that table to my data set. So you can create simple tables from scratch. One of the things I found useful is that there are sometimes that we are doing a report and we have to find a way to link two tables together, and the only way is to create like a connection table. So that's where this enter data comes in. Then we have recent sources. These are all the recent data sources I've connected to in the past 1 month. So those are the options under data. Then under queries, you can transform your data. So you already have an existing data set, but you want to transform the way it looks. Maybe when you first loaded your data set, there was a column that was a text, that was a maybe text column, but you don't want it to be a text column anymore. You want it to be a number column, maybe decimal number or whole number. You can transform your data from that. You can refresh your data source. So you have an existing Excel file or a CSV file on your PC, your local PC, and maybe you've added new data, but your dashboard is still reading old data. So you can come here and refresh your data source. One thing I mentioned is that another thing you can do is to insert visual. So you can add a visual to your reports. You can use either this option of new visual or the visualization pane here. I'll come back to the different panes, but I want to finish with the menu option here. Then you can add a text box. So sometimes you want to, I want this particular slide to have a title. I can use a text box for it instead. So if I title this one revenue revenue
can't hear anything.
Hello. My network went off for a while again. I guess network here is quite bad. And I'm using two different sources so I can change whenever something goes wrong. So I apologize. So I'm going to mute who someone is. Okay, nobody is.
Hello, Temlade.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, this is Emmanuel.
Okay. Hi, Emmanuel.
So, can I quickly show them something before you move on?
Yeah, sure.
So, so let's say you guys have MySQL. You have a MySQL on your laptop. Almost everyone has MySQL on their laptop. So probably you want to do something on Power BI. You want to connect to a particular table in MySQL. So let me just quickly show you guys how to do that. So can I share my screen?
Yes, sure, you can.
So so in my SQL, you guys have three default database that came with it. You can see Sakila, World, and SYS. Yeah. So can you see my screen?
Not yet, though, not yet.
Yes, I can. That's your
You can see it now, right? Hello, can we see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so you just go to your get data, then you click on it. Since where I want to get data from is the database, I click on database, then which DBMS, MySQL database, I'll click on MySQL database, then I'll connect. I click on connect. Then I'll supply my credentials. What's the server? Supply your IP address and your port. The port IP address is this 127.0.0.1. That's the port for MySQL. Then what's your port? 3301. So this is not a command. This is not a command commercialized server anyway. So this is my default server and the IP address and port. No, this is statically host is not a 301. So I will now specify which database do I want to pick my table from. So let me say Sakila. I want to use Sakila. You guys have Sakila on your MySQL by default. So then I click on OK. Then I have this. So you might not necessarily be directed directly like this. Sometimes I show you something like do you want to connect like directly via your Windows, or you want to connect via the database directly. So if you click on database, you have to input your login credentials, which is your username and your password, before you can see this option. But because I've used it before, that's why it just took me directly to this place. So you guys can replicate this. If you have, you can download Power BI. You have 30 days free trial so that you can follow up with Temilade at least for maybe 30 days. You guys can follow up at some point. So this is how to go about it. I hope you understand this. So if you want to select a table, let's say I want to use this table. This is a table now. Let's say actor. I want to select the actor table. You see, it's going to give you a preview. So this is the preview of the table. Then you just click, you check it. Then I will check the actors table. Then I will load. If I want to do any transformation, I can edit and all. So then I'll load this table. So it's going to load this table. You will see the columns at the right hand side here. So you can see you have actor ID, first name, last update. If you want to load two tables. You can check 3 tables. It's possible for you to do that. It's not only one table you can do. So that's that. Template you can continue. Or do you have any question? Editor is saying she can't hear anything. Hello.
I said that same, so nothing more.
Oh, okay. All right, no problem.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel.
So, Temilade, you can go on with the class.
Hello. Sorry, I was talking and I didn't realize I was still on mute. So I was describing the visual, the menu under insert. So you can insert a text box. You can make the text box you can try to make the text box your title, for a particular dashboard. It can just be a placeholder for a text or anything you want to do. You can add more visuals. So I was saying the other time that you can add customized visuals to your Power BI. That you can do so from more visuals. Then two things you can do on, for data is just sets that I have here. I have units. There is no calculation. You can't do anything with that. So if you want to create a calculation, you can do so on Power BI. It's the same thing as doing calculation between two columns in an Excel file. So you can also do that on Power BI. You can do calculation across different sheets that we have, and we can do calculations across between two columns or three columns in the same sheet or in the same data source. So I want to show you, the next thing I want to show are the panes, the different panes that we have on Power BI. One of the pane is this pane. I can't remember what this pane is called, but it gives you the option to select the report, and that's what we have shown here by default. It gives you the option to to view your data. So the data sets that I loaded the other time, you can view them on it's like viewing your data sets on the back end, like viewing the Excel version or the spreadsheet version of your data sets. Then you can view your data model. So the sheet I loaded earlier was CA sales or DE sales, and I didn't load DE sales. I loaded CA sales before I started this class. So what you will see is you'll see the components of that file, and what it does, the column names, so country, date, product ID, and then I created another table that I call student table. So if I want to create a relationship between both of them, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Microsoft SQL. In Microsoft SQL or in databases in general, there's something called entity relationship model. So you want to create relationships between two data files, you can two data sources, you can do that. So for instance, if for this my student table, I have a column named, let me create a column. No, don't let me do that. That's it. So if I want to create a column, if I have a dates column here as well, I can create a relationship between the two. So I can create a relationship, even though it might not work, between country and, so I've created a relationship between country and student's ID. I can delete the relationship. I can view the properties of the relationship. So since the default is your reports or your canvas, you have the options for filters. You have filter pane, visualization pane, and field pane. So your filter pane allows you to create filters for your reports. So if I have these reports now, is my revenue report, revenue by year. On my, because I've selected the fields data and revenue, the filter automatically appears. Those fields automatically appears on that filter. It means that I can filter this my revenue by year charts. I can filter it by dates, and I can filter it by revenue. Then the next pane is the visualization pane. So with my visualization pane, that's where I get to select the different types of visuals. So we have stacked bar charts, we have column charts, we have clustered bar charts, we have stacked column charts, we have the line charts, we have area charts, we have stacked area charts. So that's where you get to select your different kind of, that's where you get to select your different kind of charts. And there are a wide range of charts, as I explained earlier. Another thing you can do under your visualization chart is to format your charts. That's where you have this paintbrush. You can also do for specific charts. Then for your fields, that's where you select different on your chart. So I'm going to demonstrate with one of the data sets that I loaded in CA sales data set. So CA sales data set and Excel file. So you see how it looks like. I'm trying to share my screen. So this is, I don't know if you can see this Excel file, but this is what my CA sales file looks like in Excel. So we have dates, we have zip code, units, revenue, and country. I think what this means is just like from the description of this file I got is it's just particular countries sales, product sales. They have different product ID. They have dates of the sales, zip code, the unit, and then the want to connect to this data source, Power BI, and create visualization. So what I will do is I'll go to get data. I'll click on text / CSV. I'll browse to the location of my file. So I already uploaded CS cells. I want to load these cells. It's also similar to the CS cells or FR cells. Double click and then it loads. So this is what it looks like. It's similar to what Emmanuel showed the other time, but you can preview your data sets. So before I load this, I want to transform my data. I don't want my product ID to be numbers just because for my own personal reason. You don't have to follow that pattern. It's just a personal thing. Because I don't want to be able to create calculation from my product ID. And like I said earlier, it doesn't mean that your product ID in the text file, in your Excel file or your CSV file will now become a text column. It still retains its data type. So I click on transform data. What that does is that it loads a Power Query file or a Power Query editor where I can transform my data. On that Power Query editor, there are so many things you can do. You can transform your data. You can add a column based on different options. You can view your data. There are so many things you can do under the Power Query editor. So I said earlier that I wanted to change my product ID from a number data type to a text data type. So my text ID is my product ID column is selected. I'll click on the transform menu and I go to data type. So it automatically has seen it as a whole number, but I want to change it to text. I just click on text. For every step you take in Power Query records the step so that you can come back to the step and edit it, or you can come back to the step and delete it. Maybe you transformed your data, but you made a mistake. So you can always come back and change your applied step. So let me say, add it as a new step. So it has changed my data type. If you observe, what we had here was 1, 2, 3, but it's now ABC. So it just means that my data type is now a text. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'll click on close and apply, because that's the only thing I really want to do to transform these data sets. I'll click on close and apply. When you do that, Power BI loads the files that I apologize. Network is really poor. I will show you models. Go back to sharing my screen again. Okay, so these are the files I loaded earlier. Or the data sets I loaded earlier, and the was before I started the class. I just loaded DE sales. Then, so if I feel like there's a relationship between these three, maybe product ID. Okay, I can see that there's product ID on CA sales and there's product ID on DE sales. I can drag product ID, one product ID to the other, and then it gives me the option to create relationship. Let me say it's a one-to-one relationship. It says not applicable, not applicable. Okay. So what I've done is that I've simply created a relationship between the two of them. In SQL, Microsoft SQL and MySQL, you can also create entity relationship diagrams, but in Power BI also gives you the option to create relationships between your data model. What that does for you is that sometimes you can have, in creating your charts, you can select if the fields from different data sets into one chart, and the relationship is seen between the two of them. So for my for the charts, for the data sets I loaded earlier, Power BI allows fields from the data sets. I can see the field by clicking on data, and I can also see the fields here. Under student table, there's ID. This sum sign means that is a number. Then there's FR sales. Under FR sales, I have country, I have dates, product ID, revenue, units, and zip. Then under the sales, I have the same type of file. So I can drag my files. I can just drag my files I can drag my fields from here to my chat, or I can simply click. So this is a fresh page. I want to display my data. Maybe I want to display in a bar chart revenue and units sold for different products. Let me use this tax bar chart. I want to for CS sales. I want to see my revenue. I can just click on revenue, and I want to see units. So that's it. There's revenue and there's units. Now the units, because I've created both the revenue and the units, I want dates, for instance. So I drag dates and I put it on my axis. Chart now has revenue and units from 2008 to 2000. When I hover, it gives me the year and how the revenue. Because the value of units is very small, it doesn't show it properly. So maybe I want to change my chart type. It's a bar chart, but maybe I want to change it to a combination chart that is line and stacked or something else. Or I want to take out my units in total. So I can just come here and click on units and it takes it out. So this is my revenue for CAC sales, and it has just created a bar chart for me to see how my revenue has done over the years. And on the visuals, I can see that I have date as a visual. I have day, I have month, I have quarter, and I have year, and I have revenue also. So I can filter by date, I can by day, I can filter by month, I can filter by quarter. But assuming I don't want to, I only want to see quarter, I only want to see data. I just need to whatever I don't want to see under display. So I want to see only data for years. I don't want to see for quarter, months, and day. And I've taken that out. So this is how my chart looks. If I want to see, okay, this is revenue by year. I want to break it down by product ID. I'll just come to my product ID here and drag it under legend. So there are so many products. So what this has done is, even though this is how they have done per year, but because it looks messy, I'm just going to take that out. But I just wanted to show you how you can break down stuff. Maybe I want to break it down by zip code instead. I'll just do the same thing. It's also messy because there are so many zip codes, but the color is uniform. Different colors represent different zip codes. But I want to keep it simple, just revenue by year. You can format the different aspects of the chart. Under general, you can format the position, that's the X and Y position, the width of the chart, the height of the chart, also alternative text. That's for people who might be visually impaired. Another thing you can format is the x-axis, the position of the x-axis, the type of scale, the type of the x-axis, where you want your values to start. I want to change the color of my x-axis. That's the, let me say yellow because it will be more visible. So that's showing for you guys. Okay, let me use purple. Okay. So I can come here and change so many things from the x-axis, the y-axis, the data colors. So I want to change the color of my bar from blue to maybe red. Yeah, so that's it. You can do so many things on that format. You can turn on your data labels. Your data label is the value of each field. So this is the value of my revenue for each year. Let me make this blue. Make text size bigger. So that's just the basic of what to do on Power BI. Of course, there are so many other things you can do. You can change your chart type and do so many other things, but that's the barest minimum that you'll be required to do when you are creating a report for the first time on Power BI. I've talked for 1 hour, 45 minutes with some breaks in between. Nobody has interrupted me, and nobody has asked me any questions. So if you guys have questions, I'm happy to take them. Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am, we're here. We're listening.
Do you guys have any questions? Because I think that's for today. Okay. So if you guys don't have questions, I have like a small take-home assignment for you to do. I'll share this, I'll share a file with you, and I just need you to replicate what I have done today. You can just do revenue by year and format it anyhow you like. I may or may not ask for it, but just for you to practice what I've shown you today. So I'm going to share this file. I believe I can share to the team. Um, I'm trying to share a file. As Emmanuel pointed out earlier, you can download Power BI and use it free, I think for 30 days.
I'm hearing you.
Um, So I'm uploading a CSV file titled CA sales. I want you guys to just play around with the file and create any type of visual that you feel that chart that data set should have. You can create one or two files. You can just play around just to practice how to how to connect to a data set, how to shape your data set. So I want the product ID to be shaped into a text file. So I've shared that with you. I want product ID to be shaped into a text file. I want the units, I want it to be shaped into a decimal number. So instead of having 1, I want it as 1.0 or 2.0 or something like that. So two things. I'm going to type that on. So using a CA file shared. Create visuals of any type. Then shape your units column into decimal number and shape your product ID into a text file, a text type, data type. I don't know why you can't download the file. Okay, so what I can do for you is to send the file to Emmanuel, and I believe you guys are in a group, like a group chat or something, and Emmanuel can forward it to you. Emmanuel, is this something you'll be able to help me do?
Yes, sure, sure.
Okay, so I'll forward that to Emmanuel and he'll share that with you. So you can just play around with the file, and whatever you discover from it, you can share as well with members of your group. You're supposed to collaborate and learn from one another. And if this is very basic for you, I can assure you that this is actually very basic. So if you have questions, comments, challenges, you can just let me also know. I'm about to end the class, so I don't know if anybody has anything for me.
Well, the challenge I have about this class was just the fact that the network was
Yeah,
quite,
so the
and
network
so
was quite
sometimes you were trying to show something, you were seeing things,
okay.
and I don't know if others could see, but personally, I could not see.
You couldn't see. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, apart from this file, this CA sales file, I'll also share the PowerPoint file I used in my presentation.
Yeah, thank you
Okay,
thank you very much. That is really helpful.
And I think that if this session is being recorded, I think that you guys can also come back to listen. Most of what I said for the introductory part is in the PowerPoint file, and every other thing I said was just about the Power BI window. So you can ask questions. You can come back to this chat to ask questions. I can respond to, and I can always respond to them. Is that okay?
yes, yes. Very
Okay.
good. Thank you very much.
Okay. So thank you very much for listening. And I apologize for my bad network. I actually came to a place where network was really good so that I'll be able to have a seamless session. But unfortunately, MTN decided to MTN. So sorry about that.
There's no problem, man.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day and all the best in your other classes.
Bye.
Thank you.